Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Milen and I'm a personal stylist, and today we're talking about the classic family. Now, to not further delay this entire series that's taking me way longer than I thought, for the next 3 body type families, I'm going to do them in one video. So today I'm going to do soft classics and dramatic classics, and then the gamines and the romantics will be their own videos within their families, so that I really get these out. This is going to be a longer video, so buckle up, grab a cup of tea or something, and really settle in. Just a reminder that there's going to be a free download down below for you. This is going to be your shopping guide for this body type. It's going to go through the body lines and then give you basically real clickable, shoppable links to go shop what you see today and more. I also have a Shop My page that you can discover, explore, that has all the body types and everything I talk about today. And again, always more than what I'm going to show you. Okay, soft classics. Starting with tops. Now, soft classics look best in things that have a little bit of structure because they're not completely soft, right? They're pretty moderate in terms of yin and yang, but with a little bit of softness. Now, moderate, I mean they have a good mixture of the two, but they have this extra layer, this extra softness kind of that puts them into that yin category. So what we want is things that are good construction, they have really good quality. That means they tend to hold their shape a bit more, but we're going to lean into some of that yin element with a little bit of those softer edges to them. Nothing's going to feel too yang and nothing's going to feel extremely yin. It's going to be put together looks, or at least really good quality fabrics in yin focused elements. So that's things that might have more of like rounded shapes. It might have a little bit more of, definitely waist emphasis is present here. That's important for anyone that has yin. And it's gonna just feel a little bit softer edges. It's gonna have tapering just a little bit. So for these two tops, let's start with this one. This is a very cute top. I think it's really easy typically for a yin body type to lean into ingenue or something that's romantic very easily. So I had to show some of those options because that often is the case with this body type, but not always. You can be like a dramatic and have this body type. So this one is very, yes, yin forward. It's got polka dots. It's very cute. It doesn't just come in polka dots though. What's important, it's kind of got this sweetheart neckline type of deal. It's very swoopy, very rounded. It does hug the body, but it's not in any extreme. If you had romantic essence, for example, and then you had this body type, you actually want it to fit a little closer to your body to bring out that essence. But in this instance, we want a little bit of space between you and the garment for this body type. It just looks better on these bones. And we've got a nice thicker strap. You can do thinner strap though, so that's not an issue. The material too is not overly stiff, but it's not overly soft. It's like in this nice little mix middle ground. And as I was saying, on the other side, you can do thinner straps if you want to and kind of lean into a little bit more of that daintiness. What I like about this is it's not super huggy necessarily. It's not overly relaxed either. It's kind of this nice in-between zone. So that's what we're getting with here. It's very, very luxurious looking. Obviously, it's got silk. So if you do have classic essence as well as this body type, I think this works really beautifully. Then there's that yin undercurrent with the lace. It's stunning. Now for t-shirts, I think, generally speaking, anything that's kind of rib knit or a little bit more of a jersey looks better on yin, like more fleshy body types, than something that's stiff like cottons that don't move a lot. So I've given 2 options here. The first one I think is really cute. So if you lean into that idea of cuteness, I think this would work really, really well. It's got little frills on the edge of the t-shirt. It's soft. It's not overly short either because you tend to be moderate to slightly short heights. So depending on how short you are, you can really get away with this. It's going to be not cropped, but you can kind of crop it by tucking it in depending on your specific proportions. Nice little rounded neckline here, and again, a very jersey like stretchy knit. Then if you wanted something with a little bit more detail and a little bit more of like an openness, still more on the cutesy romantic side because it's got a little bit of that lace detailing, but there's a relaxed idea to it a bit more than the other ones, like a little bit more cutesy in a way. It does have, yeah, eyelet or kind of that lace detailing in the knit, but it's more of a Henley style, so it's kind of like a nice way to wear a Henley as a soft classic. Although the buttons are all the way down, you can dress this up, you can pare it down. I like this as an option for a t-shirt. Kind of sticking with those themes of there's structure involved, but there isn't an abundance of it, and it still is soft leaning. So really it looks very good quality, and that can be achieved with a collar type of shirt. So there's going to be a lot of these in the classics. Just going to warn you right now, they look good in collared things. So this top over here, a long sleeve version of kind of the t-shirts I was showing, perfect for that. It's got that lace kind of detail, so it's still got that yin element if you have that essence. Obviously, if you didn't, you would just find something that didn't have those little details. The buttons down, it kind of gives it that buttoned up shirt look, but it's softer. It's a knit. And then it's got the collar, which kind of brings in that really put togetherness. I mean, obviously, if you don't have classic essence and that just feels weird on you, you would just avoid that. So on this side is kind of an idea that I could give you if you didn't really like the put togetherness, but you still want to honor your body type and the way that it's shaped. And by doing that, we're going to just really taper things in, little puff details, nothing too extreme. Nothing's really extreme with this body type. It really is pretty even keeled with a little bit of yin. So it does come down to your elbows with that puffed element. It could be a little bit more extreme if you had a little bit more, let's say, natural essence and you wanted to feel flowy, but without going extremely flowy, without, you know, taking out that body balance that we're going for. This would be perfect. And it's a little longer, so not as like short and compact as a gamine would have. I think that's perfect for something that is classic, that's kind of in that middle ground area. Now, for that relaxed idea, I think that's kind of the hardest part as a classic, to find things that feel, yeah, they're not overly dressed up, but there are subtle ways you can do it that aren't dressed up, but they still have that quality element that looks really good on your skin and on your bone structure. So I love this idea. It's a zip-up hoodie, but it's in like a cashmere material. So there's still that luxe feel, that kind of higher quality. It's gonna have a bit more structure than something that's like just a jersey or just like cotton. And then it's still feeling in your zone of like yin. It comes in, there's tapering here at the waist, there's tapering at the wrists, there's like roundedness happening in certain areas, but nothing too extreme. I think that's beautiful. If you wanted something a little bit more to like a classic body type, I think this is the same idea as that short sort of shirt idea that I showed, that puff sleeve. And this is great for those in-between seasons now that we're going from summer to fall. And I know I'm so behind on these videos, but this gives us a good kind of in-between season piece, right? Where there's not super long sleeve. It's still a knit though. And again, we can tell it's higher quality. It's got maybe a little bit more of cashmere in it. That's superb. Now, you don't need to spend a ton of money to be buying, you know, higher quality things. It's more to the eye. It has a bit more of a tighter knit to it, so that it holds its structure. But because it's a knit and there's like that fluffiness, there's a little bit more softness going on, that's bringing in that yin. And lastly, 2 cardigan ideas. So we often hear about the one over here, which is a tied one. I really want to focus on something that maybe teeters into naturals and something that feels, again, more relaxed, because that's the question I get asked a lot. Like, how can I be more casual with this body type? And this is the way to do it. Again, it's got that puffed idea. So you've got your tapering elements to your waist, to your wrist. Looks beautiful on anyone that has yin, especially classics. and then that rounded neckline and buttons all the way to the top. I think that that tends to look a little bit more relaxed. You are doing kind of a bubbly shape. We're losing your shape a little bit in this instance, but if you're wearing like pants that really emphasize the waist and the rest of your outfit, like if you had a t-shirt underneath it that was a good quality t-shirt and was tucked in, like we can see your waist, I think this could really work. And then of course, just a classic option for a soft classic is that idea of a wrap cardigan. It always looks beautiful. These like larger collars on them too, rolled, always looks so stunning on anyone that has that softness or needs to bring in softness into their outfit. Beautiful way. Because there's like long, lean, clean lines, we're bringing in the yin in the tie and in the collar and in the fabric itself that has a bit more softness while still maintaining a little bit of that structured element. Jackets. Now I wanted to give you an option for a crop jacket because sometimes soft classics can be actually teetering into the petite zone. They just don't look as small boned, but they can look delicate. So you could do a cropped if that's your type of soft classic. So I needed to give an option of that. What I love about this is it's that kind of Chanel-like jacket, but it gives us the structure, right? Like it definitely has more of a structured feel to it. However, it's got that boucle fabric, and so it's quite soft and it looks almost puffy. That's what we want, and everything else is kind of giving that softness while still maintaining a little bit of that put togetherness, that structure, that higher quality look that we want to go for. And then over here, much like the cardigan, another wrap jacket, I often show ones that are like a trench coat, very classic. That's been talked to death, so I'm not gonna overly show it here in this video. There might be one, but I wanted to give you another option. Suede is a great way to bring in like a natural essence or something that is a bit more relaxed while still looking very put together. So if you had a mix of classic and natural, suede in a really well constructed piece that's not too slouchy and like just loosey-goose, perfect way to balance those two essences, like easily. Suede can also really lend itself into a bit of romantic because it's soft, it's not too, you know, stiff and dramatic looking. But if you wanted to bring in dramatic, this also works because it has structure. And so there are ways to like pull out the essence if you needed to. Dresses. Again, bringing back a little bit of polka dot. I know I don't talk about it too much because not everyone loves polka dots, and you are not required to wear polka dots if you have a yin body type. That is annoying when you hear that, especially like soft gamines, but you don't need to. Unless it feels part of your essence. I like that these are bigger polka dots. It feels a bit more on the romantic side versus an Asian-y side. So it does have a bit more of like a lusciousness vibe to it because it's larger. And then this really does feel more romantic. It's got nice frills. It still feels like it has a shape to it. It's not overly tight and like sexy, but it has hints of sexiness. So I think that's perfect. And it's shorter. So if you're on the shorter end of that spectrum for a soft classic, this is perfect. Then if you want something with a bit more structure, but because we have that waist emphasis going on and it's not overly petite, the proportions are pretty evenly done. Doesn't feel cropped is what I'm trying to say. This is a great balanced outfit for a balanced body type. So someone who has equal proportions on the top and bottom, that doesn't want anything overly short or cropped because their body isn't, this would be it. Now for middies, I think these two pieces are perfect for a dress. They both have softness, but one is a little bit more stiffer than the other. So depending on your essences, you can lean in to something a little bit flowier like this one. It's got a lot more movement, but the top is well constructed. It doesn't feel like a natural where it's just a little bit more loose and whatever, but the flow at the bottom gives it that romantic feel, that a little bit more natural feel of it, but the structure here really maintains that element that we need for that body type. And then over here, definitely leaning more into romantic natural zone. It feels very almost Asian-y a little bit too, because it feels a little bit prairie-like vibes, and more innocent, if you want to call it that. If you think like brands like Doan, they really lean into that, where there's a romantic feel, there's a little bit of innocence, and there's a bit of like flowy unconstructedness. So that really captures this in that outfit. But however, the actual material is not as flowy as this one. So we're getting the structure in that element there with the material. Skirts. Now I wanted to throw in a little wild card because we tend to see things that are a little too classic all the time in this body type. So if you did have, let's say, ethereal essence and you wanted something that still feels right for your body type, but isn't long and just like very flowy, this would be a great idea because it's got that kind of see-through element to it. It's got some sheerness. I love that. You could go with this color if you had a little bit of gamine essence even. This would just be so perfect for a soft classic in that instance when you're thinking about your essences coming into play. I also think that wraps, anything, whether it's a cardigan, a jacket, a skirt, wrap, dress, whatever, will look beautiful. And note, I did not show a wrap dress because, again, that's kind of talked to death. So if you can just have a safe bet that wrap dresses will work on you. Then if you wanted something, again, with that structure element, and I actually do think that classics that are dramatic or soft can kind of pull this off, but I like that it's in a jean because it kind of gives that natural element to it as well. A little bit more laid back. However, it's a very good quality jean, so not as distressed. Unless you fall really far onto the natural essence side, you want to stick to this zone, so depending on your essences. This is perfect because it's got that movement, it's got a little bit of some softness going on. I would probably not pair it with what they paired it with because that lends itself more to a dramatic classic. Something a little softer on the top, like with a bit more frill, would look beautiful with that because then you're balancing out your yin and yang elements because you are balanced. Then I wanted some shorter options again because there are short ones that in this body type. So over here, perfect. The pleating really lends itself to that like little schoolgirl if you're in the Asian essence zone. I think it's so cute and so perfect for this. It could not just be a jean material, it could be any. What's great is the pleating adds that kind of like softerness to it, but also maintains structure. Again, it's really what you pair it with. I think what she's got on, which is perfect, it's a jersey kind of stretchier top. Perfect. Then over here is kind of, I think, the best, like this type of style of skirt looks so good on soft classics. I love it on them. It's a perfect mix of those yin and then a little bit of structure, but also looks really good on romantics, by the way, because it's hugging curves, but it's not hugging curves. You know what I mean? It's just that perfect balance. And then it just slightly comes out. It's not overly relaxed either. It's just a perfect balance, I think. And then bottoms. So for pants, you want things that maybe have a little bit more room to let your hips get into, especially if you are quite curvy in this body type. You want it to have the room to put the curves into it. So you want stretchier type of trousers, right? You don't want things that are super stiff and super straight and super tailored, but still have that tailoring element there. You want that to still be present. And then you want a little high-waisted, right? Because you want to really honor that waist and that smaller point that your waist has. Then if you wanted to do something cropped, especially if you are on the shorter side of the spectrum, you absolutely can. This would be a great option. This is kind of like a Spanx type of material. So it's nice and stretchy. It's got the high waist, so you're honoring that. And then it's hugging the curves. There's a little bit of a culotte idea. And it's not too overly cropped the way a gamine would wear, but you're teetering into that zone, especially if you are on the shorter side. For jeans, I mean, again, it's all about that high quality jean idea, but you want them in stretchier, with a little bit of structure. So you want stretchy over the softness of your hips and so on, but you do want a little bit of structure. I think a nice longer pant looks really nice, especially with heels, but if you want to crop, you can. Like, you absolutely can. As long as it's not overly cropped and it's keeping in with your proportions and you're not throwing off the thing that makes you beautiful, which is that you are quite balanced. Okay, dramatic classics, tops. So I love a vest on angular body types. Like, it's beautiful. I will always love it. It'll never go out of style. I just think a vest equals structure and angularity is structure. So perfect, mirrored loveliness. I have no more words. So this one's perfect. It's got a little bit of sexiness because it's a halter top. So it's not overly like super structured and kind of hidden, or more closed off. So if you have a little bit of a romantic essence in this body type, I think this would be stunning, because with dramatic classics, we really do want structure, we want tailored, we want things again with that a little bit of space between you and the garment. And we do want waist definition, because you're not quite you're not dramatic, like you do have somewhat of a waist, it's just not extremely yin. So it's like a little bit, you got a little bit of angularity, and your height has a bit more of an impact here. So we kind of want to balance those things out all the time without going into any extreme. So this is perfect for that. It's a good length. It's not too overly cropped, not too long. It's nice and proportional to your torso. And then for another version, as I was saying, if you wanted to lean into more of like a playful side, a bit more structured, maybe even more dramatic, I would go for something that has a bit more of a sharp line, that's a little bit more closed off, not as much of like sexy vibes. And I will not stop talking about a vest because these two are perfect for that. One is a lot more boxy, kind of oversized, but not overly so. It's like it is teetering into the dramatic zone. So if you had dramatic essence with this body type, you could really pull this off, because that essence really helps to not overpower you. Then over here, this is great. It's got like a sharper line and it feels more sculpted, which is really beautiful. And if you had ethereal essence but still wanted to honor that dramatic undercurrent in your bone structure, I think this is perfect. It's got like detailing that feels a little bit mermaidy the closer you get to it. And I love that kind of like ripply effect on an ethereal, so I think this would be really, really beautiful. Now, we all know a button-up top looks really good on anyone that has dramatic or like angularity, generally speaking. So I wanted to give you kind of different options. I mentioned that wraps look really good on classics, and that includes dramatic classics. So this would be, oh my gosh, so beautiful. It's got that wrap detailing. It's got some sharpness going on without being too much. It's not oversized. It's got a good length. Everything feels very tailored to your proportions, which I think would be stunning. And then this little tie, again, not overly too natural or too, flowy. It's got good quality materials here. But if you wanted to go a little bit more on the natural side without losing that structure, I think this kind of feels a little bit more relaxed. It's a t-shirt style. It can be worn more open, a bit more like less buttoned up. It still has structure though, and it has a little bit of this like ruching detailing. I think is really beautiful if you want to just define your waist without emphasizing your waist. For sweaters, I'm going to start with cardigans. Now, this one is very much, I think, honoring a bit more on the dramatic side. It's very structured, but it has a little teeny tiny bit of sculpting happening, so it helps to kind of define the waist without going into like a natural zone where it's a little bit more relaxed and it's not overly straight the way a dramatic would. So it's kind of in that in-between zone. And then over here, we're going more into the like relaxed, a little bit of dramatic. It's got kind of a boxier like shape, but the quality, it's a cashmere, brings in that kind of classic element that feels a bit more put together. It's not overly dramatic, but it definitely has those undercurrents in there. Now the next two are not technically knits, but they are jersey knits, so they are sweaters. They're just thinner rib, which does look really nice on anyone that has a bit of dramatic in them, in that structure, that angularity. So as I was saying with the soft classics, right, a collar, stunning. This is another way of doing that. It's nice and narrowed in on the bone structure, which is really beautiful. And then in this instance, she got it tucked in, which I think really helps to define the waist without emphasizing the waist necessarily. And then over here, I thought this is such a beautiful way of bringing in like a little bit of a yin if you have like romantic essence. I want it to feel a little sexier because it's got like that keyhole idea to it, but it's nice and high and has that line here. And then again, really hugging, clean lines. Dresses, now a shirt dress always looks good on classics, so I had to bring in one to give you that taste, and this is perfect. It's got some structure to it. It's got a tie though, so if this material was a little less stiff, it would go into the soft classics, but because it's got a lot more structure into it, I think it works with a dramatic classic. And then if you were a soft classic but had dramatic essence, you could wear this. See how everything kind of flows, they move, there's lots of options. And note, these dresses are a little longer off the bat because you tend to be a little taller. Not always, but generally you have a bit more vertical. And then with that idea of, you know, a dramatic like straight line, we're taking that, we're putting in a little bit more definition, a little bit more sculpting, a little bit more tailoring. Tailoring is probably a better word because it's following the shape. It's definitely defining her waist here without it being too extreme. And then it kind of comes out into a bell shape and it has that structure in it. So this perfect way to do that. Plus this is much more relaxed. So if you wanted to kind of emulate a flamboyant natural without going into that zone, I think this is perfect for a dramatic classic. Now for short dresses, I think the way to do it is definitely with accessories a lot of the time. So for this one, she's got tall boots. That really helps to bring in more vertical again. And especially with her longer sleeves too, that's the way to do that. It's got good structure. Again, you can still, there's that kind of structured, tailored, defining waist without it being overly straight, because that could fall into a little bit of gamine, a little bit of dramatic. So it's still tailored. Key word. This would be great for someone who has dramatic essence in the dramatic classics because it does feel a little bit more sculpted, a little bit more structured without it being overly so. And then the way you dress this up can definitely go into dramatic zones. And then this one over here, again, we got really good structure. What I love about this one is it is a little cheeky. It's got a big bow in the back, which I think is super cute. So if you have a little bit of ingenue essence and you want to sprinkle that in, you can. And then again, she's paired it with like chunkier boots that helps to kind of like not make it so narrowed and kind of bulks it up. So depending on your essences, this is a good option to bring in your accessories to put it into a zone that you want. What I like about it, it's got structure, and again, it does have some definition in the waist. It's not overly shifty dress style, which falls more into flamboyant gamine. Jackets, I warned you I was going to show at least one of the trench coats because you just can't talk about classics without mentioning it, but I didn't want to overdo it. So here's one good option. You can do it without a tie if you wanted to, but I do think a tie kind of helps to define the outfit, puts it together. And then if you have natural essence, you can kind of go a little bit more on the flowier side. If you have dramatic essence of this, you make it more stiff, more sharp in the areas that you need sharpness. And then speaking of dramatics, I needed to show this as a short option. Not as short as that cropped jacket I showed for the soft classics. This is going to feel a little bit more sculpted, so more on the dramatic side. It's got really beautiful definition in the way that it's tailored and then pops out, but those are like sharp lines. And then the type of leather we're using is not overly soft. It definitely feels stiffer, very structured, which I just think is beautiful. We've got nice like structured here, but it's not oversized. We don't want to go too much on the oversized because you're not a true dramatic. Unless your essences fits it, then yes. Sticking with the leather theme, I guess, we're going to go into skirts. This is what I was talking about, that this kind of shape works really well for soft classics and dramatic classics, because really it's just like a perfect pairing of yin and yang. And so really you put it a little longer for a dramatic, a little shorter for a soft classic, and the materials kind of come into play. You want to go a little stiffer with the dramatic classics, and then with soft classics you go a little softer, a little bit more movement. But this is perfect. I think it's got a really beautiful A-line, and then it's feeling a little bit heavier, which is really great on anyone that has a bit more angularity. And then if you wanted to stick to more on the dramatic side, less like flow or that A-line shape, and wanted to go a bit more on the like narrow and straight, then you definitely can. I just wouldn't go all the way down the way a dramatic would. It's just like a little bit more proportional to your proportions, because you're not as vertical and you don't have as strong bones as a true dramatic, or as sharp bones I should say. And then for a more relaxed idea, I thought two kind of jean like ones, one more dramatic with the zipper. It's kind of corset-y style at the top, hard to see in this picture, but when you click on it you'll see. So it's got that really good definition going on, but not overly huggy to the hips that you don't have lots of yin there. Especially if you do gain weight, you tend to have more of a pear shape, so then you can kind of emphasize a little bit, but you want that stiffer fabric on top of it because there's some yang undercurrents there. This would be perfect. And then for a more relaxed, this is in a suede jean. Honestly, I think it's suede, it's not jean. But it's got a little bit of that A-line, but it's not overly short. And if you wore it lower and had your proportions right, like lower on your hip, you could definitely pull it off, especially if you have natural essence. For pants, I thought a good corduroy pant was really a way to bring in like maybe a little bit of natural essence without losing that dramatic undercurrent or that yang undercurrent, because they tend to be more structured. Corduroys with a bit of softness. So it's that beautiful pairing of the two, but leans a lot more into a structured side. And this is a nice straight leg, longer pant, high-waisted, perfect, 10 out of 10. Then for trousers, you do want something that is tailored, and you want it to have a higher waist and a little longer in the pant or the hem, because you tend to have a little bit more length, and that looks really beautiful. Don't forget to tuck things in just to have the waist definition. It doesn't have to emphasize. Okay. And then to give another kind of trouser idea, this is like a sailor pant, a sailor pant. It gives a little bit more movement or stretch, I guess, than the previous one. It's not as tailored. You can pare it down. You can kind of play into it, especially as like if you were a gamine with the sailor idea, if you're classic, definitely, just to give another option. But again, the pants are high-waisted and longer hems and not oversized. Then for jeans, good quality jeans. Go watch my dramatic classic video when I talk about what that means. You'll know if you watched it. And that is it. I feel like maybe I rushed through it a little bit, but I hope you still got the experience that you needed. And like I said, there's going to be a free guide to download to go shopping with. I just think it'll be super helpful. Yes, some of these are fall items, and I called it spring summer, but it is what it is. If you're having any trouble figuring out your body type, your essences, your colors, I have courses, I've got other things, packages, one-on-ones, all that's down below. You could also email me if you have any questions on how any of that works. And I hope you all have a beautiful classic day.